All right, Bart from Bicycle Rider YouTube, and of course the saga of Biloxi Bicycle Works, my little bicycle shop in downtown Biloxi, lives on. So I just took part in a function, a downtown Biloxi function with the Preservation Society, and here in Biloxi, my little bicycle shop back there is, you know, the building is about 116 years old. And this part of Biloxi is one of the oldest neighborhoods in the region here. We just took a tour of some, like, this is an old cypress tree, a couple 100-year-old cypress tree. There's a lot of 200-year-old trees in this neighborhood and around Biloxi Bay. I actually had breakfast this morning on Biloxi Back Bay at a little place called the Brick House, which is the oldest establishments. And I had breakfast under this beautiful oak tree, and I'm not talking like a breakfast I paid for. I made breakfast at the house, and I decided to eat underneath this tree before I came to work to the bike shop today, and just look at the Back Bay of Biloxi and the shrimp boats. And you know, I don't have to realize why I love Biloxi and this little bicycle shop. Like, I live the lifestyle. We're so fortunate to have the Biloxi Back Bay. And just a second ago, I was charging up the battery on my mom's car. That's that little Hyundai over there, and fixing a flat tire. And I just rode down to the beach to watch an amazing sunset. And you know, it's just a block down the, usually I walk there or ride my bike. And you know, I drove my mom's car there because I wanted to make sure the tires were gonna seal up. And as I'm walking back to the shop, I'm just, you know, kind of high on life, owning a bike shop in downtown Biloxi, having a little camper van. So Biloxi's a very friendly town. My house is about 7 miles from the bike shop, but if I want to camp out my little van tonight, I can. I know that sounds goofy, but I have everything I need up in the top of that van right there. Sleeping bags, and I mean, we're at like 70, a little over 70 degrees out, so it's not cold, but I have a full, you know, solar generator built in there, all the bedding I need. I got a full-size bed in the back of that van. And if I want to go crash out somewhere along the Back Bay and listen to the seagulls and feel the air, I can. I do like my little house, so it's not that I don't want to go home. It's nice and quiet there. And actually, I want to watch a little bit about the what's coming up. The Giro d'Italia is coming up, so I want to watch the GCN preview show. But just high on life in Biloxi. This is a great little place to have a lifestyle, you know. I really like my little van. And I love my little bike shop here. I am looking for a business partner. Let me open this thing up. I normally do I've got this new lock on there. All right, so normally on Thursday nights I do what's called a Thursday night fun run from a little brewery that's a block down the road this way down Howard Avenue. It's a 5K fun run and walk. You guys maybe see the shorts on there, but it's a great community event. We usually have over, you know, close to 100 runners, and it's, you know, I run about a 7-minute pace. I'm really about a 6:40, 6:30 if I'm pushing it. So at 55 years old, that's pretty fast, but I get passed by, you know, the younger crew. Especially some of those Keesler Air Force guys and gals out there. And then of course there's a lot of slow people too. So we don't say that you have to be fast. All body shapes are there. A lot of people walk, they bring their kids, they walk their dogs. It's one of those runs that's not threatening. Like, anybody is welcome, even if you walk around the block. And Biloxi is like that, you know. And Biloxi, like at Biloxi Bicycle Works, I have every type of bike from mountain. People ask, well, what kind of bike shop are you? Well, we're an inclusive bike shop. BMX, vintage BMX, 29-inch BMX, road bikes, gravel bikes, hybrids, beach cruisers, you name it. And I'm a bike slut, so I do it all. Like, I love going and competing in a duathlon, and I just got first place masters in one of these. Yeah, that one right there, first place masters, March 29th, 2025. So I am very competitive, but I also like to break it down, ride wheelies and jump on a beach cruiser. And like this Saturday, I don't know if, let me turn a light on in here. We're supposed to have some rain. This is Mother's Day weekend. Sometimes on weekends that are on a Sunday, like Sunday's Mother's Day, I try not to have a lot of big group rides because then I get in trouble with families that, you know, my husband didn't come home because he was out riding bikes with you, Bart, or something like that. But I am going to do some type of ride. Our mountain bike trails are literally 15 minutes away from here, and so are some of our gravel roads. So I would love to get on my Super Caliber, and you guys see I did replace my handlebars. So Trek did have those in stock, got my replacement handlebars. I'd love to go ride some cross country Sunday, but we're supposed to have a little bit of rain move in, so sometimes when the rain moves in, I like hopping on the gravel bikes instead. The roads etiquette is that no one's complaining if we ride gravel roads when the roads are wet, but we can get complaints if we ride mountain bikes in the rain. Even though we're kind of more of a sand-based trail, when you do own a bike shop, I have a bit of a responsibility to be a good steward to the trails. I mean, everybody else can go ride them, but if I can't host a mountain bike ride on that, so. I don't know, this is one of those inclusive bike shops. We do a little bit of everything, bike camping, you name it. It's just a fun shop to be in. And I did mention the Giro Italia that's coming up. So I have my road bike that I haven't even had a chance to hardly get out and ride with a group this year on Tuesdays or Thursdays. And I've done a few little upgrades to it. And I'm getting ready to swap my stem. So I'm going to put a little bit shorter stem on there. I broke down and I bought some handlebars. I've been saying I'm not going to change the handlebars from the stock handlebars, but they just feel a little bit wide for me. I did buy a medium large. I think it is the right frame size for me. I'm 5'9" with a 32.5-inch inseam. So I'm really on the verge between a medium and a medium large. With the medium large, I do have my seat post mast down as far as it'll go. And I say that because there's some bolts right here. So, and I've got the bolts as low as it'll go. So hopefully it doesn't slip any lower. I won't be able to get to the adjustment bolt. And you're only supposed to put that at like 3 Newton meters. So, I don't know. I like a shorter seat mast, but you know, I'm also one of those guys that when I buy a new bike, I don't want to have to spend a whole bunch of money on parts. So I did buy a little bit shorter stem and some carbon bars on there. I'm probably going to switch the bars, the stem tonight. And you know what I noticed, guys? Well, I don't even have a water bottle in here to show you. But there's a couple different mounting points on the new Gen 8 Madone. I like this prismatic color, so I put the bottle cage as low as I could go because I wanted to show my color a little bit right here. It's really made for these Aero RSL bottle cages that they have that I didn't buy. I'm just using regular cages, but I'm going to have to mount this back cage up a little bit. That way, because my bottles don't fit in there. One bottle hits the other. Now, if you have the RSL bottles, the Aero bottles, I guess they don't hit each other. But if you're like me and you got to cheap out a little bit, I'm not worried about every inch of aerodynamic drag on this bike. I'm just not that worried about it. It would be cool to have if I was on an unlimited budget, or if Trek wants me to test those things out and see if they are faster. And they are faster. They've been tested out. But if Trek want to hook me up, I'd put them on there. But if not, I'm just going to use regular Biloxi Bicycle Works bottles. But you know, I am going to have to move this up. But speaking of the Giro Italia, I am looking forward. It's going to be Friday morning. I haven't had a chance to really ride my bike, so I'm going to take tomorrow morning off and do a bike ride in the morning. So I barely have any miles on this Madone. I had a customer that let me borrow theirs for quite a few rides, so I do have a lot of rides on this Gen 8 Madone, and I do like it. But on my personal one, I don't have a whole lot of rides on. And you did notice that I've put on some different wheels, but I have the brand new Takeoff in this box right here. So whoever buys this bike from me in about a year gets brand new Takeoff carbon Bontrager wheels and tires. I'm not really big into these Lund wheels. Actually, they ride good, but you know, if you take off this wheel to fix a flat tire, be careful because that cassette will come right off on you. There's no way to lock it on. Now, it is a tight fit, so you got to shake it around. But if you're trying to change the tire, especially if it's a tight fit, and you mess around too much, believe me, your cassette will come off. Your old free hub body comes off. And inside the free hub body are the prawls for the engagement of the free hub. And if you lose those in the dirt or something, you can't find it. There's no engagement in the hub. So lesson has it, if you do have to change a flat on these Lund wheels, hypers, just be careful, because there's nothing really holding this cassette on this free hub body except for a tight fit on the actual flange. So be careful, be careful, be careful. Or just, run tubeless. I've got this set up tubeless. Yeah, I do have this set up tubeless with some 30 millimeter Grand Prix GP 5000s. So anyway, guys, we've got tariffs hitting the bike shop industry right now, and they are. I do notice, even though we're in spring, a lull in sales because prices are going up. On the e-bikes and on Trek, I almost had to raise every price on every Trek on my showroom floor, and of course it's Trek raising the price, not the local bike shop. And of course, we could sell it lower than MAP. MAP is the minimum advertised price, and a lot of bike shops are doing that. I don't want to get a strike against Trek, so if for some reason, you talk your local bike shop into selling below MAP, well, one, they could get in trouble as a dealer, but two, a lot of bike shops are doing it right now just to move inventory. I get it. But there's just not any margin. So you're just moving dollars, and sometimes, we have to sell bikes below margin, which is good for the consumer in a way, but the consumer is not going to have a local bike shop to go back to after a while, and we're kind of maybe facing some of that right here at Biloxi Bicycle Works. Now I hope, it really looks like we're promising. Actually, we've got a positive P&L statement this month, so I keep forgetting I can do that. We've got a positive P&L statement this month, so we're looking pretty good, but the margins are slim. So I have customers come in to buy a bike and they say, Bart, we don't want a discount. We want to support your shop. Man, that feels good to me, but I understand not everybody can do that, so I do appreciate those customers that are doing that. But if you don't, believe me, we're not looking down at you either. We're just at this point happy to make sales. Repair is doing good. So luckily I've got some really good repair technicians that, work hard and are experienced, and they can get repairs in and out. But, repairs on bikes has gotten more complicated too, so just remember that when you drop your bike off and, you get charged $150 for a tune-up, there's, they're earning their money. A lot of people think you can tune up a bike in an hour, but realistically, as a cost accountant, you'd have to be pretty organized and be moving pretty fast to complete a tune-up in an hour. Let me break that down a little bit. So a customer walks in the door and says they need their bike tuned up. Well, you have to have an initial conversation that might go 5 or 10 minutes. Then you have to evaluate that bike. So that means you have to put that bike on a bench, take the customer back there, measure the chain, look at your bearings in your headset, spin the crank and see if the crank's feeling gritty, look at the drivetrain, squeeze the brakes, discuss things with the customer. And a lot of times you don't want to rush through that. So I don't have a time clock on my mechanics when it comes to checking in a bike, because they're in front of the customer at that point, and I would like most things to be disclosed. Like, you can't disclose everything, but if a chain is worn out, I like my customer to see the chain is worn out by my mechanics taking a chain checker and showing them how it's actually worn out, rather than calling them later and say, hey, your chain's worn out. People look at you like, yeah, you're just trying to upsell the repair. But really, the bike's not going to shift good, and if the chain's really worn out, then the cassette could be worn out. If the customer's in front of you, you could show them the cassette and show them the shark teeth on the gears and show them how the gears are worn out. And when the gears are worn out and the chain is worn out, well, then the price of your tune-up is going to go up because there's parts involved in that. If brakes are feeling squishy and they're hydraulic, and you have to do a hydraulic bleed, I like my customer to feel that right away. So, they just know everything's on the up and up. So the more you can do on the check-in process, I think really helps the back end process go smoothly. So, when you say you could, tune up a bike in an hour, maybe that's after it's on the workbench and you have all your tools organized and you're actually getting to the work. But, to get to the work in here, you've got to put it in the system. You've got to write that work order up. That means you've got to, take customer's name, phone number, email, make special notes. I'm not the fastest typer in the world, so it takes me a while to work up a work order. So just the work order, the check-in process, and the conversation with the customer, you've got 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour into a job before it even goes on the workbench. And most of the time, it doesn't go straight onto a workbench. It's got to go into some type of warehouse or storage first. It has to be cataloged so you can easily find that bike. So you have to put, we use different colored tags and whatnot to indicate what bikes are being worked on and what bikes maybe have waiting for parts, what bikes are ready to pick up. So then you have to go get that bike and put it on the bench, so around here we got to walk across the street to a warehouse to go grab that. Everything takes time. So maybe you can tune up a bike in an hour, but when you really break it down, there's a lot more time that goes into that. And that's if things aren't causing problems. A lot of times on bikes, you have aluminum bolts, you have corrosion, and you have a stripped out bolt head. Sometimes those things can take time. Fishing cables through frames, hydraulic fittings, or someone has tried to bleed their own brakes, and you go to bleed their brakes afterwards, and they've stripped out a fitting or something. There's so many things. Corrosion on a seat post, and you can't get the seat post out. All these little things happen on a daily basis. It's rare you do a tune-up on a bike, especially a bike that's had been neglected a little bit, and it goes in an hour. So people like to talk, or it's so easy to think that when you drop this bike off that a tune-up should cost $50. Well, by the time you eat up the mechanic's labor, overhead, overhead includes a lot. That's, rent, mortgage, insurance. There's more than just the hourly pay of the employee for the owner. We have to pay workman's comp insurance. Recently had to do a workman's comp audit. All that stuff takes time. It takes time. So overhead in a bicycle shop, even in a place like Biloxi, Mississippi, that has low taxes and low overhead, it's still costly to it's not just tuning up the bike. Replacing cables and housing that is rusty, and then deciding at that point it's better just to get new housing, and then you have to cut housing to length. There's a lot to bicycle mechanics, and I'm not saying it's rocket science, but don't think our job is easy, or don't think it's quick. When people come in, they just want cheap and quick. That's how bike shops go out of business. I get a lot of people that want free. It's just putting air in the tire. I try to do my tubeless. I just need a compressor to, well, sometimes it's as easy as putting a little air to it, but most of the time it's not. It's a bead that's stuck or a bead that's dry, or the whole thing pops up. Everything costs money, and people are like, man, Bart, I just, you own the bike shop, you're my friend, and I just need a spoke wrench, or I just need my crank arms pulled off. I can do the rest, but it's not a hobby. It's a profession, and this is how we all make our money. And the bike shop owner, it's easy for an hourly mechanic to take time and talk to a customer and, try to do a little bit of free repair here. But that mechanic's still charging me by the hour, so I had to explain to a guy the other day, he's over there taking my mechanic's time, and I wasn't joking when I said, hey man, my mechanic's got to get to work. My mechanic's just trying to be friendly to this guy. He's a neighborhood guy. And I said, look, everything's money. And the guy said, look, I'm not asking anything for free. And I said, well, pay us. Well, how much is that? I said, well, you've been over here. You've been over here for over 45 minutes. We charge $90 an hour. So how about $50? Well, geez. I said, well, you didn't ask anything for free. What do you want to give us? Some charity? Do you want to give me $5 out of your pocket? That doesn't cover the 45 minutes that my mechanic was off his workbench to talk to you about some higher handlebars that you're buying off of Amazon and you're going to put on yourself and you don't know what size the clamp is. I don't know. I'm not downing the industry. I wish I could do this for free. I would love to help people with bicycles all day long if I had some money coming in somewhere. But when this is your profession, believe me, as soon as you ask something for free, someone else is coming right behind you and asking for something for free. And someone else is coming right behind you asking for something for free. And you can do free all day long. I've done free for years. And now my bike shop is in some financial trouble. So now that I'm asking for money for stuff, people look at me like I'm crazy or I'm some kind of jerk. You don't get into the bicycle industry to be a jerk. You know, when I had that, you know, I kind of have a way about myself. I was telling this guy in a funny way, hey, look, like my mechanic's got to get back to work. And rather than him realizing, well, yeah, shoot, I'm taking this guy's time, he looks at me like I'm a jerk. And he goes, I'm not asking anything for free. But actually, I said, you are asking something for free, because when I ask you for money for what you just asked for free, you look at me like I'm crazy. You know, it's one of those things. I'm rambling now. But it is, you know, it's March. Things are exciting. I'm happy to have a bike shop in Biloxi. I'm happy to have a lot of customers that are happy. I mean, I had a customer today that dropped off 2 Quiet Cat e-bikes. Those are quality e-bikes, and he wants the tire liners put in and some new tires and a tune-up. He said, Bart, I'm more concerned about good customer service than I am price. Of course, this guy has multiple ranches and whatnot. I'm happy to give that customer good customer service and charge him a premium, because we are having to store his e-bikes for 2 weeks. This is as he's at the ranch. He understands and he doesn't mind paying. Great. Not everybody can be that copacetic. I had a guy yesterday drop off a bike. He said he was doing wondering if we'd build a box bike for him. We do. We build a lot of boxed bikes. You know, people buy bikes off the internet and they drop them here. I would prefer to do it like when it comes out of the box, rather than after you've tried to do it and monkeyed around with it. So I said, yeah, we'd be glad to do it. It's a regular bicycle. Yes, it's a regular bicycle. Well, he had a neighbor drop it off, and of course it's not a regular bicycle. It looks like an erector set in a box. It's a recumbent with a belt, and like I can't put that recumbent in our bench, so my mechanic is having to put it on the floor. So rather than, you know, saying no, I called up the customer and I said, hey, look, there's going to be a price involved in putting that bike together. It's beyond our normal scope of work. For one, it's a bike in a box with multiple parts. You know, it's like an erector set. I said, you know, we're going to have to probably bill you 4 hours or so for that bike, and the customer was okay with it. They put a down payment on that bike, and they don't mind paying $400 or $500 to have something assembled that cost them $400 or $500. That's okay. We're happy to do it, you know. But a lot of it is that discussion in the front end, and you know, sometimes I've got to be a little bit harsh. Like, I'd rather have you mad at me now and come pick up the bike in the box rather than us have multiple hours into this bike and then you're mad at us. So as long as people are willing to pay, and we're not looking for T-bone steak money, we're looking for peanut butter and jelly money, and sometimes that can't be quoted. Like I said, look, we're not going to know until we open up this box and start putting it all together. If for some reason it goes together good, I'm not going to charge you for 4 hours, you know, but it might be 5 hours. So there's a lot of question marks when you buy these bikes off the internet, and there's a reason you dropped it off at a professional bicycle shop to have it done. My mechanics make a decent living, and if I can't afford to pay them a decent living, I don't want to even be their boss, you know. So the living wage for a bicycle shop mechanic is low. Luckily, my mechanics are frugal people, you know, but they do have lives, you know. Steve has his own house. Dan's trying to pay off debt. He's got a wife, you know. I mean, Alana's got a house and a dog and a cat, you know, so like she's trying to make it on her own. It's like everybody needs a dollar, and then at the end, the bike shop mechanic, after paying or the bike shop owner, after paying off all the payroll, needs a little something for himself so I can have a life too. Speaking of life, it's 8:05. I've been working since before sunrise, 5 o'clock in the morning, so I'm going to put a new stem on my road bike, go home, watch some GCN, Global Cycling Network, fall asleep and get up in the morning and ride my bike before I come back to work tomorrow. So anyway, long rambling video about life and Biloxi Bicycle Works from the Bicycle Rider. If you like what we do, like and subscribe. This is real bike shop life. May 2025 for an LBD local bike shop dealer, and right here in downtown Biloxi, Mississippi. Come ride bikes with us. Come ride bikes with us on Mother's Day. I'm going to do a Mother's Day gravel ride. It's going to be awesome.